Hey, welcome here to How We Got Here Genealogy. My name is Brian Nash, and doing this a little bit different time today. So thank you for joining live with me. And I really appreciate you all that are here. So if you want to take a minute and just in the chat and let me know where you're watching from, and those of you who are watching this afterwards, feel free to um, just let me know you're watching it on the replay. So today's topic is, can ChatGPT make my life easier? And I'm going to be specifically talking about whether it can make my life easier as a genealogist and family historian. ChatGPT, if you're not aware, is an AI program. It's really it's it's quite interesting. Um, the way it works is it has a repository of information, and it works much like a chat. Do not confuse it with a search engine. It is not a search engine. Um, I just want to say for all my genealogist friend Amy um, over at sorry, I apologize there. I wanted to say that for all my my genealogy friends, Amy and my this is one of my issues with Parkinson's. My mind goes um, blank sometimes if I don't have things written down in front of me. Um, so just 1 second here. Um, Amy Johnson. I'm sorry, Amy. Like I said, my mind, some short-term things like names often go um, when I'm trying to think of things. Anyways, if you want to know a little bit about ChatGPT and great ways to use it with your genealogy, check out Amy Johnson. She did a video recently on using it, and um, I think she does a great way of explaining it. I'm gonna just put some do this in a sort of a realistic term because when I first thought about using ChatGPT, I've thought about using it for things within my YouTube channel here, as well as within the context of genealogy. In fact, for those of you who are familiar with my channel, last year I did a series of videos for about a month. I was testing some short videos on um, this day in Canadian history. One of my biggest issues with it was really hard coming up with new topics each day, um, and having topics that were short enough that could be interesting and explained within 60 seconds. Um, when ChatGPT first came out, I thought this was going to be a great option for me. So when it came out last year, I started looking at planning for the new year. So I asked it simply, write me a script for a YouTube video about an event that happened in Canadian history on whatever day. So I started with January 1st. Um, really great scripting. Um, Unfortunately, the events were often totally made up, and the the backstories were made up. Even when I challenged ChatGPT with questions, and I would say, "Oh, well, this actually happened this day," they would say, "Oh," they would correct it, and then, but then they wouldn't go back and get factual information. So I started to learn the limitations of it. One of the things with genealogy, though, was I was thinking, how can it be used maybe to help spice up the biographies that I write? And this is one thing Amy touched on her video, and it's actually sort of the way I had been looking at it. And even before her video, I was um, sort of working on. content for a similar video. So I'm just going to kind of talk about that today. And as always, if you stick around to the end, there'll be a question and answer period that I like to call last call. And I really invite you to join in then and join me in last call so we can I can answer your questions. Okay. So what I did, and I was actually planning on doing some videos over the summer about my first Canadian ancestors and sort of how I traced back to that. And by that I mean my first ancestors down my different lines, and how I can trace it back to where they came, or what process and point of that I'm at. So I'm going to start with one of the more interesting people that I have, and it's there's interesting for a number of reasons. It's really kind of the name I like, and this would be my third great grandfather, Farquhar Campbell. So what I'm going to do is right now I'm going to take you on a little journey. I'm going to use WikiTree because that's where I like to have my family tree spelled out for people, and we're going to follow that back. And in doing so, I'm going to talk a little bit about Farquhar, and I'm going to talk a little bit about ChatGPT and see what it could have really done to help me find this information. So I'm going to bring up my tree. Just 1 second here. Okay. Now this is an ancestor on my mother's side. So when I go through my family tree, it's going to sort of show me this. So I'm going to, like I said, do a little bit different, and we'll look at it from here. Okay. So I'm just going to share this. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go start at my mother's parents. So I'm just going to get myself there. And I'm going to start with my mother's mother because this is on her side of the family. So what we're going to follow back is I'm going to be following back my mother's my mother's father. Here we go. Sorry. There we go. This is Charlotte McKinnon Anderson. So we're going to go from her. She's my grandmother, and we're going to go back to her father, and her father is John L. McKinnon. He's a interesting fella. He's I have some really interesting little stories about him. He is the only one of my mother's grandfathers that she knew. He died in 1960. My other my mother's other grandfather, he died in her father's father had died in 1940 before my mom was born. So, and her her mother's um, so this is my mother's grandfather, and he was also the son of a John L. McKinnon. Now, uh, this John L. McKinnon, he was born on the 7th of September, 1878. Uh, exactly where, I'm not positive, because I'm going to show you sort of the way I took it back, and also, one second, I used the Nova Scotia genealogy site. So we're going to I'm going to start there, and I'm going to start with him, and I'm going to show you how I researched back. So with him, I've done this before, but this is just a demonstration to you sort of where I've gotten my information, how you can use it your own, using your own records, and building back. So I'm looking at John Lennon, and I know he died in 1960, and I know sort of where he was born, but we're going to look for um, his birth records. Right now, I know it says he was born 1878, so I'm going to look from 1878 until 1960, which was when he died. So we're going to search birth, marriage, and death records. I'm hoping that I will find all three. I know from previous study searches I will not. So when I'm doing this, I always like to start death records, because that gives me a lot of information to help me um, gain insight into other things if I do not know them. So, for instance, I know that he died in 1960, so I'm going to look near the end, and I know he died in Glace Bay. So here we go, John L. McKinnon. What I'm hoping to find here is information about his family. And particularly in this case, we're going to be going actually to his mother. So let's see when I bring that up. Uh, so when sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen. I apologize. So when we bring it up, I'll actually just go back there and go right from the beginning and sort of show what I did. So I just filled out sort of my time range that I was looking for, from 1878 to 1960. Normally, I might not put in, if I did not know his date of birth, I would not put it there. I would put an estimate. And how it could help me narrow it down is actually by finding his death record, which often is the first or most recent record you'll know. And death records are great, because they will give you a lot of information about other things you need to know. Nova Scotia has really great death records. When it was after the 1920s, I want to say. I can't remember the exact year where they started using it, this little bit of format. So I'm going to go here. I'm just going to specifically choose deaths, and I'm going to go near the end, because that would be near the end of my search. So I'm going to search on the last page. So I'm looking for John L. McKinnon. Now I know he died in Glace Bay, and this is him. So we're going to look at him, and a couple things I can do that I can tell from here to tell that this is the John L. McKinnon that I'm looking for. Was I can actually look on a few things here. Interestingly enough, if I zoom in, this A. Anderson is my mother's father, so his son-in-law, and I do know that that was a address that they had lived at one point, and I know where he was buried. So again, there, just zooming in, gives me all kinds of interesting things. It tells me that it is his son-in-law, and like I said, that's my grandfather, my mother's father. So So let's look at the whole record there. So with these records from Nova Scotia, there's a couple things that I'm looking for. If I didn't have his exact date of death date, I would have it there, but I'm looking for a date of birth. Now here, I have 1879. Now, you'll notice I said 1878, and the interesting reason why I sort of look back and I kind of know it sooner is from other records that I wound up researching. But when you have this unknown, it's often taken from the age because they know how old they are. Again, just because it's in here, especially where it doesn't have the day and the month, his birthday, I you always have to take that with a grain of salt because this is what was communicated by my grandfather who was reporting this. So there's a couple things in here. He was a retired salesman and he sold household furnishings. Kind of business. It's a he was self-employed. And the last date he did worked was in 1947. If married, gives his wife's name, Catherine McKinnon. And now this is what I'm interested in. And this is a great thing that it has. It has his father's and his mother's name. So Charlotte Campbell is his mother's name. My grandmother, she goes by Charlotte, which was her middle name. So she was named after, would be her grandmother. So from John L., I'm going to look and I'm going to see if I can find a few other things there. Like I said, I'm looking for a birth record and I'm looking for a marriage record. Birthplace, it just says Cape Breton. I have a good idea where that is just because when I actually do a little research on his father and where his father was living in this period, it would be it gives me an idea of where that was. So once you remember this, John L. McKinnon, his mother was Charlotte Campbell, because what we're interested in is actually her father's where I'm trying to get to. So I'm going to look. So I switched back there. Sorry. So for John, it says he was 81, and now I have his birth date as March 7th, 1878. Now, you're going to see some notes in here. So you'll see that there says, if I put my mouse over the source, it says personal handwritten notebooks of John L. McKinnon. This was a, if I show the images here, I think I uploaded them. I received these from my mom just this past year. And it actually gives his date of birth and where he was born, Malagawatch. So, sorry. And I actually have those little booklets in behind me here. Let's see which one that's in. I think it's in this one here. So I'm just gonna switch to just me here. This should, if you can see, this is what I was showing. This little notebook. These were written later in his life, so I'm assuming he knows his own birth date. My grandfather obviously didn't have this information when he filled out his death certificate. So let's actually change that and add the place, because that is not in his record. I didn't have this place of birth listed. So let's go back and we're going to quickly do that for John. So we're just going to click on edit, and we're going to be able to say where he was born. So I am going to put Malagawach. There we go. Malagawach, Inverness, Nova Scotia, and that would be him. And this is certain. And this is really interesting because this place name will come back to us later. So we're going to update him. So when I look at his biography, I can fill it out a little bit more, but we're not going to do that because we're not really working on him as much today as just making the changes here. So yes, I have to put what I'm doing. It's bio improvement, and we'll fully submit there. So we're looking for him. We know his mother's name now. For when we go back to here, we know that his mother's name was Charlotte Campbell. So let's look back though, see if we can find any other records on my great-grandfather John. So we're going to go back to our listing here. We're going to search for births. So we're going to search for John and see what we have for John, and we're going to see. Okay, so I have no births here before 1882 for John McKinnon. So he was born in 1878. So this is not him. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go and look for if we have any marriage records. So we're going to go back and we're going to hit marriages. I know his wife's maiden name was McGinnis. So she, let's look to see if we can find there. Now I actually can go here and I can actually choose to, there is a way you can choose just to look for marriage records that will, I can put both people in. But this should be pretty simple. I know my grandmother was the oldest child. She was born in 1920. And I know by her mother's birthday, my grandmother was born in 1922. By my mother, by my grandmother's birth date, her mother's birth date, and age, I'm probably looking between 1918 and 1921, 20, maybe 22, because my grandma was born at the end of 22. So let's look for marriage records there. I'm going to hop to page 3. Okay, that's one page too soon. So we're going to go to page 2. So I'm looking for John McKinnon and Catherine McGinnis. It might be listed as Kathleen because I have seen her listed there. Again, we're going to scroll down to around here where I figured it could start to possibly be there. So nothing there. So I don't have that. I have no birth and I have no marriage record on him. But I do know his mother's name. So let's now search his mother's name. So we're going to go back and we're going to search his mother's name. Now we're going to search her married name first to find her death record. Now this is interesting. This is actually my grandmother's maiden name. And again, I wouldn't know the dates at this point. I do have them on my, because I've already researched her. So she was born in 1845. She died in 1931. So I'm looking for what records I can find on Charlotte McKinnon. And I'm not going to put a county in here because at this point, I'm not sure if when she died, which county she's actually had passed away in. So we're going to look for all the records. There's 2 records, and they're both marriage records. And this one's my actual grandmother from 1943. So I know this is not her. So I have to look at possibly other sources to find information where I could find Charlotte McKinnon. So I'm just going to go to the we're going to do the search on the Canadian census. So I'm going to share this tab, and we are looking for Charlotte. We're going to look for, oh, actually, yeah, I didn't find anything, sorry, on it. Obviously, I wouldn't have a birth record for her there. That's correct, sorry, because this is where I did get information. So I'm going to search now. I couldn't find her death record or a marriage record that would be hers, because it should probably have her husband's name listed there. But we're going to look for Charlotte Campbell. Now, this is interesting. See, I have John McKinnon and Charlotte Campbell. We do have a marriage record. Oh, so this sounds like the right person. Let's check. So the marriage records at this point. Sorry. I just realized that I stopped sharing my screen again. If you guys notice that, you need to mention it to me. So when I looked at her, I couldn't find anything under Charlotte McKinnon other than my grandmother's marriage record. So we're going to search. We searched for Charlotte Campbell, and I did find this marriage record to John McKinnon. McKinnon spelled MC. I find it common. The McKinnon. It's common that they're used interchangeably. So let's look for this. This is in Big Harbor, Inverness County, and I do know my family lived in Inverness County. So the older records of marriages and even the births and deaths in Nova Scotia tend to be this type of book. The birth ones are a little different, but it gives you a little bit of information here. So I know it's 1867. This is book 1825. I'm looking at page 18, and I'm looking for number 14. So they are numbered down the sides. So I'm going to go up to number 14. Now, this is where I always find it tricky when you're looking at these, because it will not always, the columns there won't necessarily go through and let you know what everything is. So, but we are going to zoom in. So it gives me their marriage date, that's 29th of October, 1864. So we have John McKinnon, married Charlotte Campbell. He was a bachelor. He was 43. She was a spinster. She was 22. So if this was in 1864 and she's 22, I know that she was either born in 1844 or it is possible, depending if her birth came after the 29th of October, she could have been born in 43, sorry. So it tells me a little bit about John. It tells me he was a farmer. Malaga watch. That's, if we're looking here, is the residence at the time of marriage. And this is her residence at the time of marriage. Now, this is the one I found interesting. It has father's name. They both have the same father's name. I'm assuming, particularly since they have two different last names, this was an error in transcription, or that for some reason it could have been possibly maybe he was a adopted as a son, but I don't think that, because we'll see later that his father was still alive during shortly before this marriage. And since he was in his 40s, it wouldn't have been that he was necessarily adopted as a son and taken in. I'm assuming that it is an error. So we do see here, though, her parents' names, and like I said, they're the same ones listed as both. It says Farquhar and Catherine Campbell. Okay, so we're gonna. I know that might be hard for you to read. It did take me a little searching and figuring out that that definitely is Farquhar, Farquhar, and Calf. So it would be Catherine. Maybe she went by Kathy, but I'm assuming they just abbreviated it Catherine. It will also tell me here that the witnesses and who married them. So this was the Reverend, and I really can't make out this. It looks like Forbes is the last name. So that might be William. I'm not sure. It's something G, Reverend something G Ford. So, so we know that there. So let's go back to our search on Charlotte Campbell. Now, so we're searching her. Did not find a. When I searched by Charlotte McKinnon, I could not find her deaths. So we searched Charlotte Campbell. When I search at births, they are all too early to be her. But we did find the information we were looking for. And that information is the next piece of puzzle. And that is to go to her father, Farquhar. Now, Farquhar Campbell. So I have a birth date and place, and I have a death date. So let's see how I got that information. We're going to go back again to our Nova Scotia archives, and we're going to now put in his name, Farquhar, and we're going to put in Campbell. And I'm going to look there. I have Malagawatch. Now, this is a death record in 1872. So I know any records that come after it would definitely not be him. Could be possibly a relation, but is not him. So let's look up Farquhar Campbell. He died in 1872. So sorry, he died slightly after his daughter was married. So let's look and see what we have. And like I said, much the same as a marriage. One, it's in this book format. So we're going to look, and we see that it is the years 1872, book 1810, page 69, and number 69. So I can actually see them from here. And there we go. So entry 69, Farquhar Campbell. He's a male. So it says he was 62. So that would make, according to this would make his birth date 1810. It tells me he was married, and he was born in Scotland. Now his parents were John and Flora Campbell. I've seen a few records that give the mother's maiden name here. I would have loved that, because that's something I could not find out specifically from this. And so right there, for a while, I was challenged to know if he was a tailor or a sailor. Um, and I'll show you in a minute or two why I had this. Well, I decided that his occupation was what it probably was. Gives me um, his death date. It was the 15th of April, 1872. And there's that place name again, Malagawach. Um, he died of asthma, and it has um, this is the uh, signature of the informant and who signed. So who signed it as far as being the register and when they signed it. So that's Farquhar. Now I know that here he was born in Scotland according to his death records. So we're going to see what we can find about him. 1872. So it is possible he could be in the first Canadian census, which was done in 1871. And there's also other censuses that had been done previously. So we're going to look up him in the uh, Canadian census. So I'm going to switch here and show you the Canadian census when you're searching. So we're going to select years. We're not going to do 1871 Ontario because we know it's not that. We're not going to do anyone after because we will be wasting our time, and not Manitoba. We don't need to do Canada West, Lower Canada. We don't. He's not going to be found in Canada East or Canada West. Possibly find something in 1851 or 1861 censuses. But let's check here. So we're going to put his name in. So we have Farquhar, and we got Campbell. Not going to put his age. Like I said, when we looked at his death records, it would look that he was born in 1810. I'm going to put 1810, but I'm going to set a range, and my range is going to be for 5 years. Date of immigration, I do not know. So we're not going to do all provinces or territories. I'm going to choose Nova Scotia. Now, I might actually choose Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick as well, because I don't know at this point. I don't know if he immigrated right to Nova Scotia. I'm pretty positive that's where he is, but let's put those two places down as well because they were places, particularly Prince Edward Island, where a lot of Scottish settlers would have arrived. Not going to put an age, and we're going to look for him, and we're going to remember the little bit that we know from Charlotte's marriage record and also from Farquhar's death record. We know from Charlotte's marriage record, we know that her mother's name was sorry. Her mother's name was Catherine, but I don't have her mother's maiden name. So let's search here. We're going to look for Farquhar, and like I said, 1871 is where I'm expecting, and we're going to search there. Really, I could go into more places. I know that chances are he was going to be in Inverness. I'll just leave that for now. It's not a common name, so I don't imagine too many hits. So here we go. We have Farquhar, 1871. 1871. This is actually the same record. They're just different copies of it, and that's the only place that we have them. So let's look. 1871. It says he was 60 years old, which, if I go by this, would mean he was born in 1910 or 1911. So let's check, and we're going to check here on Farquhar, and we're going to check his family. Now, in his daughter Charlotte would already have been married, so I would not expect to find her here. So with the Canadian census records, the image shows at the top. You really need to go down to get some more information. It shows me year of birth 1811. He's married. That means his wife is still alive at this point. Place of birth Scotland, Presbyterian Church of the Lower Provinces. He's in Nova Scotia, Inverness, North Mountain. So that's just the sub-district name. I didn't necessarily expect to see the community name listed there because Malagawatch is a small community. But let's see what it says. Actually, it tells me, sorry, he's on page 21 and he's in line 20. So there I have him. He's actually the last record entered on this page. So we have Farquhar Campbell. Says he was 60. He was born in Scotland. He was a farmer. All things that I expect to find. And here is that he was married. Now, these items here in the 1871 census has to do with education. So let's scroll them down. So we have their first three are instructions, next three are infirmities. So he's going to school, over 20 and unable to read, and over 29 unable to write. Over 20 and unable to write. The next ones are dumb, blind, and unsound mind. So we're going to go back to him. He's the bottom one on the page, so it's really nice that we to be able to find him. So he has a tick off in the third one. This is not a tick. This is just a blank line. Just if I notice here, these ones are clearly marked different. So this says he's over 20 and he's unable to write. Does seem he can read, but he cannot write, which I find interesting. And then if we scroll down, there's no further information in this column here. So it doesn't really have this, just dates of operation and records. So this is just where the enumerator recorded his information. So I want to see the next page. We're going to look at the next page here. We're going to do that by finding out we're going to look sort of at the same sort of thing. We're going to look for the same name, and we're going to do sub-district name North Mountain. So we're going to go back, and I'm going to modify. Sorry, I'm going to modify my search. Let's go back to search results. And there's an option to modify root search. And we're going to take out the first name. We're just going to look for all Campbells. And we're going to specifically look. There's a couple ways I could have done this. I'm going to do select years, since the only one we're looking at is 1871. And we're going to look at the under the where, we're going to do more, and we're going to do sub-district name of North Mountain, and we're going to search. And so we're going to look to see what we've got. So we have Farquhar. There we go. We have his wife, Catherine, 60 years old. So let's look up what we have on this. This will give the rest of the family. As we can see, it's the top of the next page. So we have the other various members of the family. One here, like I said, you're not going to see Charlotte because she was married at this point. We're going to see Donald. Why Donald is particularly interesting to me is a story for another day. My next live stream, I'll share a little bit about him. So we're looking at Farquhar Campbell now. So going back to him, we know that he was born in Scotland. And I want to go back to, if I go back to his death certificate, we're going to, when we're looking at him, so when we were looking back at his death certificate, we know that his parents' names were John and Flora. He was born in Scotland, so he immigrated to Canada, obviously. So we're going to go to my favorite site for looking up Scotland is Scotland's people. So I already did this a while back, and I have a record saved. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to share this screen here. So this is Farquhar Campbell. Now it's giving the birth date of 1808. And when I searched, this is the only Farquhar that matches the parameters with a mother named Flora and a father named John. That's in what I would find is a reasonable range for his based on the census information and his death certificate. And remembering that, especially in those days, things were not necessarily written down and in people's memory as firm as it might be today. So we have June 19th. We have, and the year is 1808. So far in this registry, there's not that many people recorded. There's a couple recorded on May 1st, May 18th, May 29th, and June. So in 1808, in this particular record, there was nobody born before the month of May. So in June, we have John Campbell and Flora MacArthur. Now, this is the place they were in, Bala, and then their son, Farquhar. So this is who I'm looking for. So now, if I need to know specifically, this does give me a little bit of information. It's a parish record. So this is a baptismal record. So that's the date that he was baptized. That's why you see multiples on the same day, and because, but large gaps in some of the birth dates in as far as months. So let's look at Cole. Now, interestingly enough, Cole has a really, really great genealogy website. and there's two places that tend to go together. They are Tyree and Cole. So I'm going to bring over here, and we're going to go to this Isle of Cole genealogy. Now, this can give us a lot of information once I'm looking there, and this is sort of where I am at right now in my research into this family. Again, I want to go back to my first ancestors and have an idea of where they came from. So it has a great record. There's this one, and they actually have a sister site for the Isle of Tyree, their genealogy site. So it's just colegenealogy.com or tyreegenealogy.com. Great sites. I want to talk about another tool that I use, and specifically with my ancestry in Inverness County, Nova Scotia. I use a book called, it was written in 1922. It's the history of Inverness. So we're going to go, I'm going to share that. This is from archive.org or Open Library. So it's really nice. It basically has scanned copies of books. You'll see this is Inverness County, Nova Scotia. This is the writer J.L. McDougall. You can even see the stamp from the library that it was in. So in this one here, this was from the Toronto Library. It has the Dewey Decimal number, or their number for their listing. Great. You turn really easy. I click, turn pages. I can also do searches. Now, in this case, I've not been able to find anything specifically about Farquhar Campbell. I have found other information about his descendants, but not specifically him. So, but I just wanted to mention this as a resource. So let's get back to the whole point of this main thing today was ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, we're going to see what it can do as far as writing a biography. Again, I know some other information about Farquhar that I've been able to get from family sources, but I just wanted to give you sort of a basic rundown. So we're going to go, and I'm going to pose this question to ChatGPT. Can you write a biography of Farquhar Campbell, born June 19th, 1808, on the Isle of Cole in Scotland, and he died on April 15th, 1872, in Malagawach, Inverness, Nova Scotia? So I gave it limited information, and let's see what it comes up with. Remember, I know that from his death and also from the census and his daughter's marriage records that he was a farmer. So let's see if it finds out that and what other information it might find. So we're doing this real time. And then I'll read this. Farquhar Campbell was born on June 19th, 1808, on the Isle of Cole in Scotland. He grew up in a modest family where hard work and dedication were deeply ingrained values. From a young age, Farquhar showed a keen interest in exploration and adventure, fueled by the rugged landscapes and captivating stories of his Scottish homeland. Oh, yes, I was going to tell you why I knew his father was a sailor. First of all, he was on the Isle of Cole, and particularly the community from it was a port. that people could sail from. In his late teens, Farquhar set sail for new horizons, joining a merchant ship that frequented the bustling port of Glasgow. I have no idea if this is true. I have no records of it. The experience ignited his passion for maritime life and sparked a desire to travel the world. He spent several years at sea honing his skills as a sailor and developing a deep respect for the vastness and unpredictability of the ocean. In the early 1830s, Farquhar's wanderlust led him across the Atlantic Ocean to Canada, a land full of promise and opportunity. He settled in Nova Scotia, where he found work in the bustling shipping industry. Well, strike two, he was a farmer. Farquhar's diligent work ethic and natural leadership abilities quickly propelled him up the ranks, and he soon became a respected figure in the maritime community. In 1835, Farquhar married Mary McLeod. His wife's name was not Mary, it was Catherine, a fellow Scottish immigrant who shared his sense of adventure and ambition. The couple embraced their new life together, raising a family. While Farquhar continued to build his career, over the years he amassed a wealth of knowledge and experience in shipping and navigation, earning a reputation as a skilled captain and an astute businessman. Driven by the desire to make a lasting impact, Farquhar sought to establish his own legacy. In the 1840s, he founded his own shipping company, which specialized in the transportation of goods and people between Nova Scotia and other parts of the world. His company flourished, serving as a vital link between Canada and various international markets. Despite his success, Farquhar never forgot his Scottish roots. He maintained a strong connection to his homeland, frequently returning to Cole to visit family and friends. I would find this very doubtful. Maybe if he was a sailor himself, his voyages also took him to other parts of the globe, allowing him to expand his horizons and forge valuable connections. As Farquhar entered his later years, he continued to contribute to the growth and development of Scotia's maritime industry. He remained actively involved in his shipping community and mentored young sailors, passing on his wealth of knowledge and expertise. On April 15th, 1872, Farquhar passed away in Malagawach in Inverness County, leaving behind a lasting legacy in the maritime world. His entrepreneurial spirit, perseverance, and love for adventure inspired generations to come, and his contributions to the shipping industry played a significant role in shaping the economic landscape of Nova Scotia. Today, Farquhar Campbell's name lives on as a testament to the indomitable spirit of exploration and the power of following one's own dreams. His wife serves as a reminder that with determination, hard work, and a thirst for discovery, one can leave an enduring mark on the world. Okay, so we're just going to do this once, and then we'll end it shortly after here. This is, great. Whoever this Farquhar Campbell was sounds like a great guy, but it's not my Farquhar Campbell. So I'm going to say, so we're going to add the following information. He was a farmer. So we'll add this, and I'm going to add a little bit of information here. And I'm not going to list all the children that are listed there, but I'm going to specifically mention these two because these are the two I have listed and I have records of. This is my my second great grandmother, and this Daniel. Like I said, I'm going to share another story about them. So I'm going to add that. Sorry. So I'm going to just add this information about these two children. They're not his only children, as we saw in there. They are just the ones that I've done research on. So we are going to go back to the ChatGPT screen, and we're going to add a little bit of information. So, and we're going to add a little bit about each of them. So we're going to go back, and I'm just going to go back, and we're going to see what we have about Charlotte that we know about her. So she was married born in 1845, and she died in Malagwatch on the 1st of November 1931. And again, that came from my great grandfather's little book. So we're going to go back to him. Sorry, we're going to go back. She was born 1845. And then we're going to go to here, and I'm just going to get a little bit of information on Daniel L. So he was born in 1848. So, oops. So we're going to add this. And we're going to get we're going to add a little bit about his marriage here. So he married Margaret McNevin, Prince of Ryland. And he specifically, where he married her was in and we give him lots of information that he can have a little bit. Um, Okay, so we added some more information. Let's see what he does with this. What ChatGPT does. Certainly, so here it is. That was my mistake that I make that there is, yeah, I didn't and to there. Um, so now he has this deep connection to the land and strong work ethic. So So it pretty much did the same thing, except now it made him a farmer, and he was committed to the earth and not to the sea. Um, it's a really nice biography. It has some things I could put there, but I would definitely want to. I would want to correct some things. Like first of all, um, I would tell it to. So I have those two pieces of information. You know, as far as most of the other things, um, it's not bad. Um, it it kind of, but I also know he did not come over here and set sail on the waters. He came over here because of the clearances, basically. Um, so can ChatGPT be used in genealogy? Can it make my life easier? Um, Definitely. I mean, I probably couldn't write as nice prose as quickly, but genealogy is about accuracy. Some of this stuff is great because it puts some information about it, about the communities. Like I said, Isle Cold, there was a lot of sailors and people from there. That's why it probably stuck on his fascination with sailing, and it very well could be um, that he did, but he was a farmer, and from the time he was married to the time he died, and in documentation I found nothing sooner about him, but definitely, you know, could you use it if you wanted to fact check everything? Make sure you fact check, enter those facts into your request in ChatGPT. You might get um, your some prose written. Um, I honestly, there's some things within WikiTree where it will write biographies taking all this information that I've already entered in there. Um, so it will write a short biography with basically just the facts, which is nice. Is what sometimes is just what you need. Definitely a lot of extra prose in here. We'll see. You won't see this posted to um, my WikiTree profile on Farquhar right yet. Maybe with a little more editing and a little more trying, you'll get there. So let's get back, and I'm going to get back to your questions now. We're going to do what I do at the of end of the line, every week we're going to go to our last call for questions, and let's do it now.
Let's call!
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh.
So, if you have any questions, enter them in the chat. If you've been, if not, we'll wrap things up. And we're going once, going twice, going 3 times. You have yourself a great day. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And definitely enjoy yourself. And I'm going to ring my bell as I go out. And have a great day.